Great. Well, thank you, Graham, and I appreciate everyone bearing with me as I roll with the punches here. Today we're going to talk about NCCCO, the foundation, workforce development, and Lift and Move, which is an organization that Tracy manages. If we can move to the slide titled Research and Trends. So here we see what we probably all know, that we have a hard time filling positions. As an industry, we've been focused on the skills gap for years. Most projections predict that it's going to be this way for the foreseeable future. This data is from AGC, and as you can see, 81% of their members have a hard time filling positions. Next slide, please.
Yes.
The top three concerns for AGC members are directly related to labor skill level and ability. You can see worker quality and people. So people and the quality of those people and the skills that they bring to the table account for the majority of the issues in filling these positions. Next slide. But not only is there a gap in the quality and the people, there's an education gap. Society is shifting its perception. It used to be that we encouraged everyone to go to a four-year university and get a degree, but skilled trades are becoming more and more popular, and people are seeing the importance of those. But the schools are still struggling to catch up. Harbor Freight Tools conducted two studies that were released earlier this year, regarding skilled trades education in America high schools. And the key findings were that there's a significant gap between the current version of high school skilled trades education and what Americans actually need. So the good news is that the problem has been identified and we want to fix it, both parents and students. Next slide, please. Graham, I believe you'll have to kind of tab through. We're going to see some stats come up individually here. So these are some of the findings from the survey. You'll see 79% of the parents believe that their children would be more prepared for a career if they had a chance to study that trade in high school. There's other areas of the world that make sure that kids have those opportunities. 72% of students themselves say that high schools could do a better job of giving them a chance to learn real world skills. 7 in 10 of the surveyed say that they want employers to do more to support skilled trades in education. 8 in 10 support more funding for skilled trades education, and 80% describe trades as important. So despite this, there's still significant challenges that impede process. First, there's not enough data to affect policy change. There are only 5 states in the US that are able to provide data in every survey category. In those states that responded, only about 8% of students are taking a skilled trade course. And in the same areas, students are taking 2 or more courses, which indicates really strong interest, but that would still only fill 10% of the job openings projected out to 2028, and that's just not sufficient. Some of the other challenges are teacher shortages, funding and curriculum that lags behind what the industry really needs, and then a lack of understanding about career paths and the opportunities offered in the various trades. Next slide. So here's what's happening at a college level. You'll see that post-secondary enrollment has been trending downward, and this is not affected by COVID. This is just a general, since 2015, you can see that it's really fallen. Next slide. The positive side of that, however, is that enrollment in some transportation and construction related degrees is up. or at least descending at a lower rate than overall enrollment. In addition, the pandemic presents some new opportunities for industry. 16% of high school seniors are now planning to take a gap year as a result of the pandemic. Many of them will need jobs and hopefully come into our industry. 10% of the college-bound seniors are making alternative plans, and 26% of college students say that they're unlikely to return to their current college this fall. Next slide. So now let's shift our focus to what the career in tech or CTE community needs from our industry. So 98% of the CTE administrators say that business and industry partnerships are important or extremely important. However, almost 70% of them lack the time to develop those relationships, and a third say that they're lacking funding. Meanwhile, half of the educators surveyed say that partners are unwilling to engage students under 18 for work-based learning. The Association of Career and Tech Educators, or ACTE, conducted a survey of educators, and some of the feedback that they received gives us some pretty good insight into how we as the industry can adjust in order to form successful partnerships. So some of the things that they said, just a few statements that we pulled out of the report. One was industry partners are losing potential employees because they refuse to employ secondary education students under 18. So they're looking for us to bring younger students in to do things. Obviously, there's some things they can't do. They can't be a crane operator, but there are probably things that they can do around the yard. Business and industry is afraid that we want money when really all we want is their input, is another statement that they've given us. And business partners lack knowledge of what CTE has become and how it can benefit them, which leads to a lack of willingness to participate. So that gives us some insight into what we can do as an industry. Next slide, please. As an industry, we understand the value and concept of on-the-job training, and educators feel the same way. So in education, the equivalent is work-based learning. However, work-based learning doesn't only mean traditional apprenticeships. Any exposure to real-world problems and environments is viewed as supporting the work-based learning model. So a couple of examples: project-based. Schools are moving towards implementing capstone projects for seniors. As an employer, you can help put those projects in context, give students a problem to solve or research that helps your business. Another opportunity is co-ops or internships. Might be as simple as job shadowing or mentoring the student in a career pathway. It's more about giving kids the exposure to people and equipment, environments, business, that sort of thing. And finally, learn and earn apprenticeships. It's a more formal arrangement, but the key here is that the student gets paid. And we can consider partnering with schools to enable students to earn industry certifications, the older students, obviously. Next slide. According to the ACTE survey, these are the top 3 ways that industry partners can get involved. So don't forget that we can aim these things at parents and teachers. Not everything has to be students. Teachers are a great way to reach a lot of people because they'll take that information back to the classroom. Open house tours, opportunities for visits and work sites, externships or job sharing with teachers, and teachers also seek industry-specific training and certifications. In fact, Lift and Move has received inquiries from teachers asking about applying for vocational or technical scholarships. Next slide. So how do we get started? So we need to understand what your business needs first, or you need to understand. So according to an employer guide to effective community college partnerships produced by the Aspen Institute, the strongest education and industry partnerships start with employers having a clear understanding of their talent pipeline. So specific data points evaluate average recruitment cost per hire, cost of training and retention per hire, employee turnover, common reasons for departure, and average time for new hires to reach full productivity. Next slide. So what can we do? We can look around our community and determine the organizations that we want to partner with. So there's some examples everywhere from middle school to military vets. And depending on the type of organization, will determine who you need to reach out to. Everyone is going to have different titles or departments depending on who you're reaching out to. And here's a list of suggestions of who you would want to look at. So start the dialogue by finding out the organization, your organization's needs. And don't be short-sighted. I know it's really easy to, and we all want it, right? Someone who comes in, they already know the job, they already know how to do what we want them to do. But don't be afraid to engage with people that are ready to enter the workforce, but may need some training. And consider a mixed approach and vary your engagement level by audience. Next slide. And here's some additional examples of engagement. So Ford Next Gen Learning arranges these on a continuum of low to moderate to high intensity. So look to start small. You don't need to jump in feet first. You know, be a classroom speaker, serve on an industry advisory council, provide facilities or materials, that sort of thing, and work your way up as you have time and effort that you can put into it. Next slide. Another way to engage is to consider taking advantage of special career recognition days throughout the year. Work these into your community outreach calendars. You know, communicate these with the organizations that you're partnering with, and use these to open a dialogue with local schools, community colleges, and such. Next slide. So a lot of the things that we've talked about here today are archived on the new Lift and Move website. We'll see the website address in just a minute. But if you go to the website and go to the resources section and click on the industry tab, there's a wealth of information. And next slide. So here you'll see the URL and then Tracy's email address as well. So COVID has tabled a lot of all of the Lift and Move in-person events that we had this year, but we're still here to help get people into the industry. In addition to some of the resources that I just mentioned, Lift and Move is working on packaging some of the best practices and getting that materials to the public so that they can do their own education and industry partnership activities. And that concludes the presentation.